How are you doing today, Dan?
I am doing great. How are you?
I am okay. I'm here in downstate Michigan and it's pretty snowy.
It is snowy.
Well, thanks for talking with me. Yeah, we're just trying to familiarize people with what the impact of some of these proposed changes might be. We heard over the weekend that part of some options for a potential reconciliation bill being circulated by the House Ways and Means Committee in Congress includes some fairly drastic changes to school meal programs. And, it's one of many things being considered. And we want people to understand what the impact of this would be. So we thought that, as a experienced school nutrition professional and somebody who's been a big farm to school champion, you could help our audiences understand a little bit more about what that is.
Yeah, thank you. I know some of the changes they have. I think that the two big ones of changing the rate at which you could qualify from CEP from 25% to 60% is one of the drastic changes. And then the other is requiring income verification for the application. And so to talk about the CEP one first, it's really CEP to me feels like smart government. It is it is saying, hey, this is what your economic area is, and it seems like it qualifies that you have enough students who would qualify for free meals that we are going to allow you within a certain rate to get this many free meals. And then the rest are paid. So in my case, in Montague, about 50% of our population qualifies for free and reduced meals. We get, when we're working through the CEP program, 70% of our meals are at the free rate and 30% are at the paid rate. But the benefits that gives us on the other side is, we're not asking families to say, well, how much do you make? And when this gets to the building, what it is, it's almost like we're asking Johnny, Johnny, before you take that lunch, what's mom and dad make? How are they doing? I really feel, for the first time in my career, because both of my districts are CEP that I work with, for the first time in my career, my job's just feeding kids. My job's just building environments for kids to be safe and happy and to offer them nutritious food instead of being an administrative trying to figure out how much money this student makes, parents make. And so I really think it's such a great program that takes a lot of kind of wasteful time and paperwork and focus on what's not our goal. And then the other part of, once you start, charging individual kids, we go back to that world where all of a sudden students have debt. Because you know what? If Johnny comes through, we're feeding Johnny, and then it becomes the parent responsibility. And oh wow, and if the parent didn't have the paperwork filled out properly, then that becomes school meal debt. And across the country, school meal debt is a huge issue. I mean, thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars that get accrued. And once again, administratively, it's our job to start calling parents and saying, what do you got? Or in some places, when they do that horrible thing of not allowing a child to have a meal or give them an alternative meal. It's very concerning. Asking for income verification for these families that fill out applications becomes extremely problematic.
Yeah, I was thinking about, for anybody who might be watching, the CEP is the Community Eligibility Provision. So it's one of the big achievements of the last child nutrition reauthorization. So it's only been in place for, a little over 10 years, I think. And um, it's allowed people to, as you said, focus on the actual meal. And I know that you do a lot of work in your area to incorporate, Michigan ingredients, working on farm to school issues. And so I wanted to hear a little bit about, what you can focus on when you're not being a debt collector, or paperwork administrator, to help people understand sort of what's at stake for farm to school.
We've worked really hard to, we're connecting more with local farmers, and I'm doing a lot of work of figuring out how do we get, how do we process local foods? We're working on a collective of our school districts to work together to process Michigan potatoes, so we can have frozen Michigan potatoes throughout the school year. We work with our local culinary program. It's a high school culinary program, and they develop healthy recipes that use Michigan ingredients that we can serve in our program. And so these are those things of student taste testings, doing nutrition education, garden education. Those are all things that become possible where all of a sudden your bandwidth is, oh, I'm not spending 20 to 30% of my time administratively trying to figure out if Johnny deserves a meal, and I'm going to go to Susie because I keep picking on Johnny, but so it's crazy, that becomes the focus, and that seems like, it's a good step for government. And the other thing I'll say, and I'm incredibly biased, but school meals is the best dollar the U.S. government spends. It is a dollar that does nothing but good. It starts out with farmers, then it goes to food manufacturers. It gives meaningful work to lunch ladies, and it's a nutritional safety net for kids. There's nothing wasteful or, money that shouldn't be spent along the entire process. And so continuing to support that and allowing us to have a level playing field. And I will tell you one other thing about this, and I love this story. My other district is North Muskegon Public Schools, and that's about a 30% free and reduced rate. And we were just able to qualify for CEP with this latest change. And I was having a conversation with my high school principal. When she was a student, she qualified for free breakfast. When she was a student in this school district, she qualified for free breakfast. But she would never take free breakfast, even if she was hungry, because free kids took breakfast. Food insecurity is a real thing, and we put up barriers in different ways. And having an environment where, well, everyone gets breakfast, that doesn't exist anymore. So you've built an environment where kids, can take breakfast and not be shamed, and not feel that, well, I can't do that because socially only free kids do it. I mean, it's a really big deal. We're talking about, feeding America's kids.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that, when you're talking about things like income verification, it might sound simple on the surface, but is actually a really big barrier because, in terms of how the paperwork works, especially for a lot of families, if I'm not wrong, in your area, there's a lot of tourism and a lot of things that are seasonal industries. And so families' incomes can shift pretty drastically, from, September to someplace else, and things like documentation and paperwork, right? Like those kind of industries, it's not like everyone's working a 9 to 5 W-2.
Well, I think in general, it's, you know, life's hard for people. I mean, I empathize with our working families and the challenges that they have. And, getting the actual piece of paperwork, a lot of times for some families, that's a barrier and it's a real challenge. And then taking that extra step of, oh, we need a paycheck stub, or we need to, find out what all your income is. And it has to be perfect, because if it's wrong and it doesn't match what we have, then it doesn't work. And the communication back and forth, and families are so inundated. I really see this as that would be an incredible barrier, and that really incomplete applications would skyrocket, school debt would skyrocket. And in the end, that school debt, if it goes uncollectible, even though we need to spend administrative time the entire school year to try to collect it, then it has to be picked up by the general fund. So that's money that's supporting teachers and money that's supporting school books and desk and all those kind of things. And that is, and then inevitably you have that, that's more pressure on these families, to say, well, they qualified, but their paperwork wasn't in. And so we fed, Susie for a month. And so now she owes $50. Before we were CEP, we had families that, had, $40 on their account, and we carried it over for 6 years, because they didn't get their paperwork in, and it's not, and we can't just say, oh, it's going away. And in our case, we've been able to manage it, but in some school districts, it's literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. In those really large school districts, it is, and then just that idea of having 30,000 students in your school district, and you're trying to get free and reduced applications from half of them. It is just a really, it offers a lot of challenges, which I see very little benefit.
Thank you. Yeah, and I feel like we should probably wrap up, but I just wanted to thank you. And thanks for all of the work that you're doing, and all of the school nutrition professionals who are helping to make the school and the lunchroom a welcoming and positive place. It's a big value of ours that we share with you, and everybody at National Farm to School Network, that we're supporting kids and our families. And my personal point of view is, even for kids who might be, above the threshold, having the school meal be quality, and investing in that quality, whether you're paying, per family or qualifying for a meal, that benefits all kids to get those positive investments in their school day and in their future. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I think it's such an important part that I think is many times overlooked of, food insecurity is a real thing. And that's not just for kids who qualify. It's for kids who live in different situations, and that they're a hardworking family and both parents are working, and they might, be over that threshold, but it might be hard to be able to have, $3 for lunch every day and $2 for breakfast. And we know the meals that we serve, from study after study, are the healthiest meals that our kids get. And so why wouldn't we want that for everyone?
Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate the time today. I know that you are busy and have a lot on your proverbial plate. So I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you. And thank you to the Farm to School Network.